Now, a Hutch's weather update with Chief Meteorologist Hutch Johnson, brought to you by Robert Gibb and Sons.
Hello, everybody. Meteorologist Hutch Johnson with a quick update as we head into the 8 o'clock hour. A severe thunderstorm watch has been extended all the way out beyond the Missouri River Valley, now pushing into places like Sheridan County, Kidder County, and on down towards the Logan and Emmons County areas as well. Tornado warning continues in the Dickinson area for a line of very strong thunderstorms, gusty winds, basically a long line of severe storms that stretch all the way from near Williston straight down into the Rapid City area of South Dakota. Here's this backwards C shape, so it's a long linear line of storms, an active tornado warning right there at the middle section of it. Now, there's still a tornado watch in portions of southwest North Dakota. And as this becomes more linear, this is going to transition into what we will have more of a wind threat as we go through. Notice these huge areas of thunderstorm warnings for each of these cells. This is actually a cluster of hundreds of thunderstorm cells that go all the way down to the far south. And as we take a look at this line of storms, we're seeing little areas here where we get this backward C shape or bowing structure to them. Gusty straight line winds, definitely one of those concerns that we're going to have. Howdy, Bruce, it's good to have you on board. Thanks for joining tonight. Let's take a look at the first things first, and that's this area with the tornado warning. It's passing through the Dickinson area out towards Richardson and Taylor. See this curly Q right here? That storm showing indications on Doppler radar of a tornado. Now, the storm is approaching the outside or right edge of this polygon. Here is the area. It looks like a yin and yang thing here, right? This is wind away from the radar in the Bismarck area. This is wind toward the radar in the Bismarck area. So that rotating part of the storm, right where we saw it spiraling. Notice this gray line in between. That means we have air moving this way and air moving this way. So there is that spin, but there's a zero velocity in the middle, and that's what this is. And what that usually means is it's a broad rotation. So this storm is going to remain capable of producing a tornado. As we go back in the scans and rock back just a couple of frames here, we'll show you that that the red and the green were right next to each other without any space between them. That's a worse situation there. Notice there's this faint color down here where we see it go from green back to red as well. Kind of an interesting signature to say the least. And as we go back in time to the beginning of the warning for this storm, it's basically traveled right along the county lines, Stark County, and up to the north there near the Killdeer area. And look at this. Now, as we take a look at the latest scan, here it is continuing to show that acceleration towards Richardson and Taylor as we speak. So a lot of rain. If you're in Taylor, if you're in Richardson, that's a nasty, nasty storm. Now let's take a peek at the actual 90 mile per hour winds is the latest on the severe thunderstorm warning. 90 mile per hour destructive winds from this storm. Do you see this signature right here? Let's dial into the radar, and I'm going to take a look at where the velocities are the absolutely most redonky-donk here. Hi, Crystal. My dad says that Dominator 3 went from the Weather Channel was in Williston today. Yeah, indeed. They're out tracking these storms right now. Thank you so very, very much. I appreciate that. Now, let's take a look here as, well, let's see. I think we got Rick. Thank you for watching. Okay, check this out. What we're looking at here is straight measured velocity. The Doppler radar can measure the raindrop speed, whether they're coming towards the radar or away from the radar, but it can't tell you the exact speed of the wind. You got that? Now, these winds are going to be blowing right towards the Bismarck radar, so it's going to give us a good estimate of the winds in the mid-levels of the storm as we look into it. So this is what we're going to look at. I want you to remember, this is not winds that's necessarily on the ground. Do you see these wind speeds here? Up above the ground, we have 80, 90 knot winds. Now, with a downdraft in a thunderstorm, this energy can get mixed straight down to the ground or very close to it. Those are extremely, extremely powerful winds, and there is the leading edge of them aloft right here. Now, these are collapsing and going close to the ground, and what happens when they hit the ground is this. See here. you're going to see as it hits the ground, it spreads out as its own little cold front, and we get this other leading edge closer to the ground, making clouds. So there is certainly the possibility here of some very gusty winds pushing in towards Richardson and toward Taylor right now with this storm. And in spots, those speeds are estimated by the National Weather Service to possibly be upwards of 90 miles per hour. This is a very destructive line of storms here, folks. Now, that's the area here. Let me go ahead and time this out for a couple of communities. If you're watching from the Western Dakotas, tornado warning, just look at that curly Q right there. It's like a comma shape. There is a spin in that storm that is unbelievable. And where we see that spin kicking out right here on this comma shape, there's the leading edge. That's where the leading edge of the rain and thunder is aloft and the hail, but down at the surface, the winds could be blowing out even ahead of this line. So keep that in mind. The wind may arrive first from the outflow from this storm. And look at that spin. It's right there where the spin was. So this storm continues to have very, very tight rotation. Might be taking on some indications of a mesoscale convective complex or vortex here if this feature continues on. If this does continue on, then this is going to potentially be categorized as a very, very high wind producing event as we go into the evening and late night hours. Now, where we see the curving is where the wind will be the greatest. Up here, those winds will be blowing from southwest to northeast. Here, those winds will be blasting straight out of the west. So keep that in mind as well as it moves towards Glen Olin. Now, huge line here, huge thunderstorm warning that extends from I-94 right down through the Hettinger area. And I spy with my eye one area of bowing and another area of bowing down here. Let's check the winds. Let's go right to those sections and segments and see what we're seeing for wind speeds in those sectors. Here we go. Now, this is getting a little farther away from the radar still, and it's not directly into the radar beam. The winds are going due east, toward the east, I should say, out of the west. And we're still picking up 60, 70 mile per hour. This is mile per hour converted already, not from knots. So 65 to 70 mile per hour winds measured aloft above the ground, blowing out in that backwards C-shape or Boeing line segment. Let's go down towards the Hettinger area in Lemon, South Dakota. I see rotation in this cell on the far southern flank. That's not unquestionable in those areas as well. So, all right, let's take a look down a little farther south still. There's another Boeing segment here near Lodgepole. Look at that. Struhl, Bison. This area here has some spin or shear in the storm, and these wind speeds aloft are over 70 knots, 70 miles per hour. Wow. 72, 75. Okay, so this goes to show you that the velocity signatures can help us measure the wind speeds from storms up above at cloud level, not necessarily what's hitting the ground. And it does confirm the potential of these storms that in isolated areas, not everywhere, in isolated areas, we get some terrible winds from these. Now, this type of storm, these type of storms can fell trees, and they can cause those trees to fall over roadways. They can cause those trees to fall onto your home. So keep that in mind as these storms are approaching the Bismarck area. Quick note on timing. As the crow flies, the leading edge of the gusty storms, and I'm telling you, they're picking up speed, right? They were moving at about 25 miles per hour a little earlier this evening. Now let's take a look at how fast they're moving. First, we got this line that's leading edge is just now moving out of the Richardson-Taylor area. I'm heading out to the east, and it's just now kissing Morton County right here. And there's Bismarck, and this is 63 miles away. So let me take a look at the notice from the Weather Service on this destructive 80 mile per hour storm, possible 1.25 inch hail. And we are talking about the risk here. Oh man, it's moving at 55 miles per hour. This puppy is really cruising as it's working its way off toward the Bismarck area, the capital city. Now, again, a feature. This looks like a solid line of doom and gloom on the radar. It's very far from the radar, and as the beam goes away from the radar, it expands. So an expanding beam will make a little hail shaft look like a wide hail shaft. So we get these huge areas of storms. As it gets closer and closer to the radar, we tend to see these storms, the radar has the capability to pick up individual cells, and then it looks like the storm just split right around you. That doesn't happen. So these storms will go where they go. What looks like a solid line of storms is actually individual thunderstorm cells that are on a linear path heading toward the Bismarck area. Here's the leading edge of the storm. Let's go ahead and show you a couple of towns in the path of this. New Salem, Sioux is going to be seeing the abrupt effects of this storm. I'm going to put the speed at 58 miles per hour. Why do I go higher than the Weather Service says? Because there could be a little delay in transmission. Eagle's Nest, 11 minutes from now, the current time, 8:14 Central Daylight Time. So 8:26, 8:25, it'll be near Eagle's Nest. Glen Olin, it's coming towards you as well. New Salem is about 35 minutes out. That's all. So batten down the hatches. Make sure that trampoline ain't going to go fly into the next county next door. Again, expect winds from the west. Some of you will see winds from the southwest with these bowing line segments of storms that could exceed 70 and up to 80 miles per hour. And that's what we're measuring way up high. There may be even some areas getting a little bit more than that. Now, because the radar can only measure the winds that are blowing directly towards it, then it can only accurately measure winds that are blowing looking into the beam here from Bismarck. So I'm going to draw this arrow. This arrow represents the wind coming out of this storm is from west to east, and that's likely what it's causing is an extremely strong wind out of the west heading towards Bismarck. The Bismarck radar will do a great job of measuring this. These winds down here from Hettinger are blowing straight towards Lemon, straight west to east. That's the gusty shape that this takes. This line segment's bowing out this way. But the radar beam over here from Bismarck is coming at this angle. So I'm going to draw it in orange. Here it is. Now, it sends us beam out, and then it bounces off the hailstones. And it changes frequency, and it changes the movement of the raindrops and hailstones change the frequency of the beam so that when it reflects back to the radar and goes back and travels all the way back to Bismarck, it has a different pitch to it, a different sound, if you will. It's kind of that same Doppler effect. That's what we call it as you watch a train go by. The pitch of the train is increasing as it comes towards you and decreasing, it goes away. Like that. So if we can measure the change in the frequency of this pulse from when it was transmitted to when it was received, we can estimate the wind speed exactly towards or exactly away from the radar. But this wind isn't moving toward the radar. It's moving at an angle. So we have to use trigonometry to calculate what this wind would be. And we were seeing nearly 60 to 70 mile per hour winds in this at an angle. That means this bowing segment here, I think, could be creating terrible winds. Now, we might get a better estimate if we looked at the Doppler radar from the Rapid City area, but let's not take time doing that. If you're in Lemon, let's see what the Weather Service says. This storm is moving 70 mile per hour winds, possible tornado. It's moving off to the east at a clip of 55 miles per hour, 70 mile per hour winds and ping pong balls. But I think there might be some late indications here on the latest scan Hutch just showed you of possible winds aloft that are even higher than 70 miles per hour. And with the bowing shape of this particular cluster of thunderstorm cells being this backward C shape here, here's where the strongest winds are going to be, right at the apex of that bow. Keep in mind, if you're in Lemon, let's see how fast this is going to be on your doorstep. The leading edge of the storm, you may even be feeling some of the outflow from it. Now I'm going to go 58 miles per hour, calculate for that time of lag in the broadcast here. It's going to be in your kitchen in Lemon, South Dakota in 12 minutes, okay? So as we go towards 8:30, it should be crossing into the Lemon area, on towards Thunder Hawk in 21 minutes. Are these going to hit the Fargo area? Hey, Latanya, thank you so much for answering for me. You're right, not as strong. The risk of severe in Fargo is not going to be as great because the pool of cool air near us, near the ground, it's going to really cause these storms to kind of fall apart by all model indications and historical records. The energy in the atmosphere is out in the western Dakotas tonight. Spearfish, all the way areas north of Rapid City, Faith, Dupree, Eagle Butte, all of those areas are in the line of the storm. Do you see this faint little green line right here? That's an outflow boundary. These storms are burping out with a lot of velocity, a lot of wind, thanks to the fact that they're 55,000 feet or taller in some instances, collapsing down. That makes a terrible wind. So that wind flows out and makes a new cloud. The radar sees the cloud. There it is. That outflow boundary will be the first thing you notice as that storm approaches Rapid City on the north side. See it? Moving to Piedmont now. Sturgis, you're getting a rumble of thunder over you right now. That's a little cell. Looks like it's just forming on the south side. Now, here's something to keep in mind. On the south fringe of this line is where the best chance of any more tornadic activity may be. The best chance. Now, the leading edge of any of these can kick up kind of what we would call a QLCS type tornado on this linear system. Those can be strong in localized areas. They don't tend to have the longevity of some of the more robust supercellular tornadoes would, but dangerous nonetheless. So we're watching this storm become more linear. Let's go up to the Dickinson area, Minot area and radar and see what's heading into the Lake Sakakawea area. If you know of folks who are in Lake Sakakawea, throw a tag for their name into the broadcast here on Facebook so they can see this. Moving toward the western shores of the big lake right now, some windy thunderstorms. There is a warning from Watford City to Mandaree and in toward Newtown for this curving or bowing line segment here. A good friend of mine, Tom Schrader, out in the Minot area. If you've been up there, you know Tom Schrader. He covers these things, well, all night long if need be, and he'll be keeping you up to date out there. Check it out. It's called Hey Tom Is On, and he's got his site burning and rocking with some coverage there. So here we go. If you're heading out, or if you are out in that Watford City area of McKenzie County, there's a very windy line of thunderstorms, very heavy rain, and gusty wind potential. Now, the National Weather Service is saying 60 mile per hour winds, and this line of storms is moving east at 45 miles per hour. Some areas are seeing the wind and the storm activity move to the north and east. So I'll loop the radar so you can get a feel for this. From the Minot Deering radar site out here, you're seeing this whole line progress easterly at about 30 miles per hour. Up here, though, at the top of this system, see how these are kind of moving to the north and east? So yes, Minot, you're going to see storms all of Lake Sakakawea here, including Beulah Bay, Hazen Bay, all of these areas on the huge reservoir here that is Lake Sakakawea. Those storms heading towards you. Halliday, Golden Valley, Dodge, Beulah, all going to see some severe weather making its way in. Gusty winds going to be the main threat. The hail threat is there. It's just not as robust or as strong as they were. Is that initial hail threat, though, that is causing these storms to burp out some terrible winds. Speaking of which, some very strong winds and hail. Moving on with this curlicue here, this counterclockwise rotating thunderstorm cluster right here, a supercellular thunderstorm blasting into Hebron right now. So Hebron and the northern and western reaches of Morton County are seeing this storm blow in as we speak. Hey, Hettinger, what did you see down there? I'm going to take you to a look at some of these North Dakota road cameras, and we'll take a look because you'll be staring right into the teeth of the old proverbial chihuahua here as we go through the next little bit. Let's start south. Let's go to Hettinger. We just showed you that. Here's what the storm looks like from the backside. So this is the storm has passed the area. The crops are green. The wind has blown through. Look at the standing water, and there's the dark skies in the direction the storm is heading, with some flooding rains that have moved through areas down there in Slope County, south of Stark County. Now, this storm is heading in toward the Lemon area. Let's see if we get a view of this thing from Haines, North Dakota. This is on U.S. Highway 8. We're looking at more road here. I definitely am not seeing any indications of the cloud structure. We've had this conversation already tonight. How about Mott? Okay, let's go to Mott and see what we can see. Here we can see a little bit of cloud and heavy rain structure with the storm. And there it is, bringing the heavy rain into parts of the Mott area, Regent. Okay, so now let's move north just a little bit and see what we have heading into New Salem and Glen Olin right on the interstate here. So it's just moved through Taylor. Let's look at that camera view, and we can certainly, look at the low clouds. You see them danglies there? Those are low clouds on the backside of that storm. That can certainly happen. Keisha asks, how's Devil's Lake looking? You may have some windy storms in Devil's Lake. The risk of severe is quite low, but it's higher in Devil's Lake than it is in Fargo or Grand Forks. So the western counties in eastern North Dakota, that's the Benson, Ramsey County area, Foster County, Eddy County, on down towards the Stutzman County area. Those areas have a better chance at seeing some wind from these storms. And I think that it's going to be very late and likely after midnight before they arrive. So that, Keisha, is your story there. Is it coming to Manitoba? Yep, up in Manitoba, there are some storms up there. But as we look at the Minot radar here, you can see that most of the energy, whoops, I guess you can't see because I got to turn on the radar for you. Minor details. Okay, the storm's moving up into Manitoba right now, Estevan on out towards Winkler. These are non-severe, so this main leading edge line, not a problem. When these move up, they will kind of have a little bit of a northerly trajectory up into parts of southern Manitoba for tonight. The risk of severe there is not very good. Right now, the greatest energy in the atmosphere is here near Estevan and out towards Weyburn. So keep that in mind. I hope that answers your question, Danielle. Thank you so much for watching from Park Rapids. Ashley, good to have you on board as well. And you're very welcome for talking a little bit about the weather. In the Devil's Lake area, we have a stout thunder shower making its way in. It's moving toward Lakota, where there could be some small hail in this particular cell. I can go ahead and look at this. It's moving right through Devil's Lake. Now, it is not severe, and it's not expected to become severe. Same thing goes for you up here in the Belcourt area and Rugby. We have a cell that's kind of just very slowly meandering around in that particular area. If I take a look, I can show you the difference between the storms that we have by looking at how high they are in the atmosphere. These are called the echo top heights, or how high does the radar estimate the cloud tops being. And here you go. If you look down in Devil's Lake, there's some yellows in here. This is a low-topped thunderstorm. 33,000 is pretty shallow for a thunderstorm. The puppies that are barking out to the west, let's go look at them puppies. Here we go. As you get into these oranges here, these storms were at 50,000+ feet. They're now collapsing down to around 45,000 feet. They're an additional 2 miles high in the atmosphere. You can probably see these coming. As we go farther down south, there's more energy down south, and therefore those clouds are going to be taller. Watch this. 43,000 foot as we go into that area of the Beulah-Hazen Bay area. That's a pretty tall storm. And then how about the one traveling right on the interstate and point south? 45,000 feet. That's what's heading towards you, Glen Olin. That's a big storm. And now how about Hettinger? These are the 50,000 footers here. So there's more energy in the atmosphere down south. The rising motion is strong, and it's punching those clouds much higher into the atmosphere. Over 50,000 feet up, these storms go. And with updrafts that strong, we can get some sizable hail out of those storms as well. I'm going to take a look at the National Weather Service for a quick review. We do have some... we do have some videos showing off here by a few folks out there tracking storms today, but essentially... Yep, an MCS line of storms, a mesoscale convective system. That's just what we were talking about. So this system's going to feed on its own. The Dickinson Airport reported a gust of 88 miles per hour as that tornado-warned storm moved through there. 88 mile per hour. I imagine that the Dickinson area has some terrible damage from the storm. So what we just talked about was some of the cloud top heights associated with these storms. These are non-severe thunderstorms at 30,000 foot cloud top heights. These are severe thunderstorms producing nearly 90 mile per hour wind gusts that were clocked in Dickinson. Wow, unbelievable. Towering storm with a lot of wind potential heading for you in Lemon, South Dakota right now. I'll turn on the Rapid City area radar so we can get a feel for what it's showing for cloud top heights. Here, let me pull this up. And these storms that are in and around parts of northwest, South Dakota, 50,000 footers. Up here we have some 45,000 footers, and boom, they just issued a new severe thunderstorm warning that you saw pop on your screen there with the radar just moments ago. So these storms are racing at 55 miles per hour. They're keeping it under the speed limit. Gusts to 60 mile per hour will still be possible from many of these storms, even though the cloud tops are a little lower. Let's go ahead and look and see what they're doing now. Okay. Let's go to the Bismarck radar. See how they look kind of wimpy up there? Now we'll turn on the closer radar. Not so wimpy anymore, are we? Look at these things. And we still have this curling mesoscale convective complex. So what that means is this storm has created its own rotation and its own low pressure center. There's your low pressure center. That's the spiraling area that we saw. That storm right there is taking inflow of warm, hot, muggy, humid air, wrapping it up around, and on the backside, you're going to get some very strong winds even after this leading edge blows through. Where we have the curves are where the gustiest of the winds are going to be blowing through, right on the South Dakota lines. One area of concern for strong, strong winds. We also have that strong wind potential in this little Boeing segment here. This whole area, very strong winds. I'll get you the latest estimates aloft, up above the ground, at what the wind is being measured at by the Doppler radar. So we're looking at straight velocity. It's going to have a very good estimate of what kind of winds are being measured aloft. Here's Hebron, and you got 65 mile per hour winds measured aloft or better in a few spots. So, I saw 70. So on I-94, on and over I-94, and not far from you in Glen Olin, 71 mile per hour gusts straight out of the west are being measured from this storm right along the interstate. This is what's measured up above the ground, not what's being on the ground right now. But it's this velocity, that high velocity wind that's heading towards Bismarck, can get mixed down to the ground with these downdrafts from the thunderstorm. And sometimes they can be even stronger. So what the radar is measuring and telling us is above the ground, we got 70 mile per hour straight line winds moving west to east toward Glen Olin right now. Seek shelter. Do not watch this storm come at you from the window. Stay away from sides of your home that might have trees that could fall into your area. Let's see if there's been any power outage issues. We can do that live here on Hutch's Weather. Let me look for your reports. Let's go into North Dakota here first, and we'll click on this and see if we can highlight for you any power outages. It does look like we have some, folks. So let's get down here. Hettinger County, and we also have Stark County with some power outages. I'm hovering over Stark County. We have 2,000 people without power. Hovering over Hettinger County, 400-ish people without power. Raining in Hebron, says Lori, thank you very much. Bismarck isn't likely for tornadic activity, ? Some winds, rain, and hail, ? Tiffany, that is correct. On the leading edge of some of these outflow boundaries that we're seeing here, so there is some power outages where these winds were measured to be near 90 miles per hour in Stark County in and around Dickinson. So keep that in mind. There could be some power outages with these terrible winds with the storms. You've seen me pointing at these Boeing thunderstorm segments, that little backwards C shape. Hutch calls that a bow echo. That's called a bow echo in meteorology. And it's a radar signature, and it has the evidence of wind. Along those Boeing line segments, from time to time, we can get spin-ups of tornadoes. So, Tiffany, I want to tell you, it's not out of the question. And some of the language you might see on some of these warnings show this. The National Weather Service uses the term tornado possible. So if we go back to the radar here, one moment while I turn that back up, and you can see a severe thunderstorm warning is issued for this area, and it says tornado is possible. 1-inch hail, 80 mile per hour winds, and this is a destructive storm. That means the winds are strong enough at 80 miles per hour to actually do damage to mobile homes and manufactured homes. If you're in a high-profile vehicle, these winds are going to be coming at you straight out of the west in most cases. So driving north and south can topple a high-profile vehicle, particularly those that don't have a big load in them, right? So this is what we have going on. So what I'm trying to say to answer your question, Tiffany, is that there's still a risk of tornadoes with these severe thunderstorms, but it's not the supercellular type tornado that are long-tracked. They can be strong, though. If this is a 80 mile per hour wind and we have a vortex in there, you're going to have localized area where we could have some pretty bad wind damage. I recall a storm back when I was in the Bismarck area that moved through, what was it? It wasn't Washburn. It was, was it Underwood? I think it was. Underwood. The school down there had terrible damage. It was a brick building from a windy line of thunderstorms just like this. So please keep that in mind. Carrington area around midnight. Greg, let's go to the forecast now. We can see the line of severe thunderstorms. There's no more tornado warnings at the present time. Let's go ahead and take an update for you. And we're approaching the 9 o'clock update that I'm going to do very quickly. But essentially, you know what? This is going to meld into my 9 o'clock update. Let's get you some timings because I'm just going to be updating all the night. Let's go to the model right here on this. So I'm going to load up the forecast model. We'll have the very latest hourly updated model here for you. I'm going to go to my model guidance screen. I'm going to leave on all the warnings and all that nonsense. It gets a little bit cluttered, but you can see the future radar. We have non-severe storms in the eastern third of North Dakota. We just had a soaking shower in and around the Fargo-Moorhead area and more on the way. All of this activity is moving to the east and northeast towards Winkler. Again, generally non-severe. Here's the main event. It's in the Dickinson area now. Let's time it out for you and see what the radar says. How far out is this model going? Oh, far enough. Hoo-wee. We got a couple of surprises. I just saw a surprise to show you. Okay, here we go. Let's talk about it. Heading toward the 11 o'clock hour, we'll get some development of showers and storms along what will be a warm front here. Now, the risk of severe is very low. A, because of the time. B, because the atmosphere is very cool and chilled, and we're not really as unstable as our neighbors out to the west have been. These storms, if you look closely, and I'll zoom in for our viewers out in that Bismarck area, have moved through Bismarck by around that 10 o'clock hour. We'll go back to 10, rocking into Mandan, Bismarck, and down toward Fort Lincoln, Sioux County, Fort Yates, you folks in Mobridge. This is when it's moving through your area. This has been well forecast by the models the last few days, saying 10 o'clock in Bismarck. That looks to be pretty close. Now, it's speeding up a little bit, mind you. Might get there a little early. Up in Minot, if we go up there, the storms are also going to be encroaching on your area in and around that time frame. You'll get rain before that, but the main line holding off till about that time. Jamestown, Valley City, and here in towards Lisbon and Gwinner, we're going to see some thunderstorm development make its way through. That pushes into Fargo by 11. Not the main event, pardon me, not the main event. These are not expected to be the big wind-producing storms, although we're going to see some wind out of them in isolated locations. Grand Forks, you got a chance for some storms northwest Minnesota, but look at what's going on all along the Interstate 94 corridor where this warm front develops. There's going to be some extra enhanced lift and energy in the atmosphere there. And here go the storms. Now, the main line starts moving into Jamestown to answer your question. Here you go. Carrington, Devil's Lake. Here's the main line of storms. Devil's Lake's right up behind my banner here through Jamestown. Look at the time, midnight 30, midnight o'clock. Okay, that's what we'll call it for the James River Valley, Carrington, New Rockford. You folks in Maddock will see them as well. Now, these storms can split around your community. It does look like a solid line of rain and thunderstorms and doom and gloom, and I know that. But what's going to happen is there's going to be individual cells, and they're going to pass over some of us, and we won't get much. Look at this, 1 a.m. It looks noisy and pretty stormy in and around Fargo, Fergus Falls, and extremely heavy rain potential as well. So with regards to this, you're looking at 2 a.m. as Pedro has a scratch. Hi, Pedro. Do you have a scratch? You want to come up and say hi? Come on. Come on. There he is. This is Pedro. This is my prognosticating puppy, and he's the goodest. He's the most bestest. And Pedro says it's going to get wet, so if I'm going to walk the dog, now's the time in Fargo, because we'll have 11 o'clock storms coming through, and then overnight all the way through 3 a.m. These are heavy rain producers, folks. Now, we'll back up as you can see those storms heading in towards areas of Minnesota, eastern South Dakota, where we need no more water, folks. Sioux Falls, Sioux City with the washed out bridge. Southern Minnesota, you know what's going on down by Mankato, right? There's just a dam failure that happened down there, or a compromised dam, I should say. So all of that said, very heavy rain is going to bow back into those areas. It's going to be a rain event, not necessarily severe weather for tomorrow morning. Now, redeveloping storms tomorrow night look to be nasty in places like southern Minnesota and Iowa once again tomorrow. There'll be a risk of a few severe storms. Hi from Canada, Jim, Pedro, and Hutch. Say hello to you. You want to say hello, Pedro? Okay, so this is Pedro, and he is my rescue pup, and he's been prognosticating the weather with his dad here for some time. Now, for the day tomorrow, we're going to have a chance of some showers and storms in Canada. There you are, Canada. How about Winnipeg, Dryden? And then watch what comes in. This is a surprise. Look out of Montana, Weyburn, Estevan. See that little curly Q? There's a secondary low pressure system that'll come swirling through. This is tomorrow night. So another round of showers and storms coming from west to east tomorrow night. Will they be severe? Not likely, but I can tell you this. These are not going to be the 50,000-foot clouds that we see tonight from these thunderstorms, but these will have some spin to them. These ones out near Williston that you see at 5 o'clock. So Pedro and I want you to know that in a setup like this, we can get some some spinning weaker tornadoes, not the EF2, 3s, and 4s, but maybe a little bit lower. Look at the thunderstorm potential tomorrow moving through the region and into, by 10 o'clock, the James River Valley again. There you have it. More unsettled weather. Thanks for sharing, Bonnie. Hi again from Justin and Cullum. Good to have you. A good 1/4 inch of rain or more. Thank you for your report. I sure appreciate that. And in fact, Hutch is going to take a look at my friends' network at the North Dakota Agricultural Weather Network here, and I'm going to see what these storms are dumping, because it does look like there's going to be the potential for some very significant rain coming our way. So we're just going to look at today's rain total. I'm going to save this, and then I am going to say, yep, that's where we want it, and then I'm going to open it. Here we go. Are you ready? See how fast Hutch can make a weather graphic in real time? Boom, there you go. Okay, these are the forecast facts. These are the current rainfall amounts. Look at this. In that area of Medora, 1/2 inch, 3 inches from a gully washer out there near the areas of Fairfield, right? And then as we look out towards Watford City, 1.44 inches. So gully washers out there, those are now just riding into the Bismarck area, where there's already been a good inch of rain in Burleigh County there. Down to the south, Emmons County, 1/2 inch of rain. And up in the Devil's Lake Basin, we have a good inch of rain not far from there. And Maddock, around a 1/4 inch of rain, 0.24 for Maddock. So I know all the town names aren't on here, but we've got very little here in the Red River Valley. We had a little sprinkle move through. We're measuring that in 100ths of an inch. So a lot more rain. Now let's see if you have any more questions before I sign off. But we've gone over the forecast. Let's go over the 7-day planner. This is what you need to know as we head through the next 1, 2, count them, 7 days. All right, tomorrow, morning showers will be exiting through Minnesota. Afternoon showers and thunderstorms will be possible, but mainly for us late at night once again. So early morning storms Friday, some sunshine. Ah, that's from my sound effects machine. And then late, we'll have another chance of some showers and storms. Sunny Saturday, sunny Sunday. Then we flip the calendar and roll into July. And things are looking like, well, we'll have a few showers and thunderstorms on Monday. Could they be strong? Yep. With the time of year it is, it's just that time of year. And it looks like a little break Wednesday. I'm seeing indications of some 4th of July thunder in Minnesota and here in the Red River Valley. It's unorganized, but nonetheless a chance for some hit and miss storms. But what else is new on the 4th of July? That is my forecast. Looking for questions here. Now, let's take a look at what we have going on with regards to our active radar right now. Back to that we go. Pardon me while I load that up for you, and we will get to the very latest. And then I will sneak away and come back a little bit later with an update. But these storms are heading right into the Bismarck area right now, or by 10 they will be, but they're heading towards central parts, it looks like, of Morton County there in the Mandan area, Glen Olin. Let's go ahead and turn the radar on here from Bismarck. Now you can see this curling line segment of storms, very windy storms capable of very strong gusts. I've been able to measure them because they're coming straight out of the west, so I'm going to do that again now. The storm just has this huge outflow coming through Hebron, Richardson, northern parts of Stark County, northern parts of Morton County, along and north of Interstate 94. That's where the strongest punch of wind is right now above the ground. And it's getting lower and lower to the ground, I might add, because it's getting closer and closer to the radar. Let's see what the wind measurements are now. 70 miles per hour right near Hebron. And as we look out towards Richardson, the winds last a long time. Look at this, 75 mile per hour winds continue on the backside of the storm. So keep that in mind as you're continuing any travel. You're going to have a west wind, very damaging wind from this line of very dangerous wind producing thunderstorms. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the peak gusts that we're seeing here at 33 feet. Down in southwest North Dakota, we're talking Bowman, 60 mile per hour, Rame, Marmarth, 61 mile per hour gusts just off the ground. So there was terrible gusts there. Now let's look at the current wind gusts or today's peak gusts closer to the ground. We heard about the 88 mile per hour measurement at the airport in Dickinson. Elsewhere, numerous reports at gauge stations of 60 and 70 mile per hour winds in a couple of spots. Looks like not far from Golva. Okay, so these storms, very windy, moving into Glen Olin right now. These storms down to the south could be a little windy as well, but this looks like the main event. This is very close to that center of circulation. And we can watch the evolution of this. I'll go back about an hour here, and you can watch it loop through. And this ripping line of blue that you see here is wind blowing right from left to right across your screen. Here we go. There it is. See, it's consistently on the south side of this circulation rolling through on that MCS, mesoscale convective system, maybe a mesoscale convective vortex on the north side there. That would be the center of the rotation or the vortex. That doesn't mean a tornado. It's a huge rotating cluster of thunderstorms here. It's organized, and that means its chances of living on here for the next few hours, at least couple of hours, look pretty good. Look at these winds in the bluish hue here. 70 to 75 miles per hour, blowing right towards Hebron, south of you folks in Beulah, though. That's good, but there's going to be a strong punch of wind right here. You see it? Let me get you back over here. Here's this strong leading edge of wind. Look at it lighten the radar color up. The wind is really picking up. This is just off the ground now, so it's not necessarily what's hitting the ground. All right, back down to Lemon we go. Ooh, I see a pretty bright, evident rotation in a cell down here. This is north of Faith. Let's look at the warning here. Possible tornado, it says. 1.5-inch hail, 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and considerable damage. The warning's in effect for the next half hour for you folks in that Faith area. Let's get a closer look at a radar. This is the radar. This is from the Rapid City area, and you can definitely see the glowing brightness of the velocity couplet here toward the radar in green. It's towards the Rapid City area and away from the radar here. So a real nice rotating mesocyclone there showing up on the radar. Those rotating mesocyclones, as we call them in meteorology, can sometimes produce tornadoes with fairly short notice. This storm's moving over the Bison area. It's heading towards Stroul, Chance, Meadow, all of these areas. Lemon, see the brightness of that outflow away from the Rapid City radar, and that's at an angle. So this wind is blowing this way, west to east through Lemon. Not sure what your measured wind speeds were there, but things probably were pretty gusty and dusty. Is Culm getting a big storm tonight? There's going to be a chance of some windy thunderstorms for you, Justin. That's the way it's looking to me. These storms are going to blow into Bismarck. Models do indicate that they will lose some of their punch as they go off to the east. I'm going to go over another model here. I'm going to pull it up over here. So give me a minute while I load up what I want to see and the model that I want to choose. And we're going to focus on our area here in the Northern Plains. Pedro and I want to take you on a trip and look at a different model now. So we looked at one model over there. We're going to look at this model here. This one is... these models too, by the way, are getting updated. The weather balloon launch happened. The newer model runs are just running now and we'll be calculating coming out. So here it is, the line of storms crossing into Morton County here as we go towards 8, 9, 10 o'clock Bismarck. See how they fizzle out as they move east? So I'm not saying they will completely depicitate, but they're going to really fizzle out as they go east. The wind will be the main threat from these storms as we go into the overnight hours in the eastern third of North Dakota. So anyone in the eastern third of North Dakota, there's a risk of marginally severe storms is what we call it. And the gusts won't be the 90 or 100 mile per hour ones or the 88 mile per hour ones we're seeing there out in Dickinson, but a little bit less robust. Let's look at one more model while we're doing it. I'm going to take a look. Ooh, that one's just coming in. Let's look at this one. This one's just coming in too. Okay, another convection allowing model. Oh, let me get to the latest one here because I want to. There we go. Here it is. This only has a few frames, but it does show that as this model has the storms moving into the Bismarck area at 10 o'clock still. Really consistent timing. More spotty natured storms as we look out into parts of South Dakota. Then those storms start to gain energy. I think these storms down south could rob energy from the event coming out of Bismarck. And here we go. They start to collapse a little bit. When they collapse, they could make some wind. So if you're in the James River Valley, the Cheyenne River Valley, you'll have a greater chance at some pretty gusty, windy thunderstorms. The gustiest of them will be along and south of Interstate 94, the way it appears to old Hutch and Pedro here. That's what we're looking at. So nighttime storms, what time is this? Subtract 5 from 7, we're going to get 2 a.m. 2 a.m. storms moving through the Red River Valley and eastern North Dakota, blasting into Minnesota, and they continue to collapse. They could be breezy, but the risk of severe should be waning as we go into the late night hours. All right, that's a look at what's going on. We have warnings as storms are approaching the Bismarck-Mandan area now. They're still out a little ways. I'll go ahead and time them for you. If you're in Glen Olin, New Salem, they'll be blowing towards you first. Remember, on this radar, the strongest wind is with this backward C shape up here. That's that. We're measuring aloft 70 to 80 mile per hour wind gusts along and north of the interstate. This one's starting to pick up a little intensity too. Don't know what's blown through Glen Olin as far as wind speeds go on the ground, but there is some evidence along this leading boundary here that we could have some very strong and excessive winds. Is this still moving at 55 miles per hour? Destructive tornado possible, 80 mile per hour gusts, moving east at 55 miles per hour. So because of the speed of movement of this, I'll give you a little bit of a heads up. If you're on the interstate path here from Glen Olin to New Salem, let's measure this at 58 miles per hour. Let's do a calculation. We'll carry the 1. And it looks like Almont by in about 6 minutes, it's going to be blowing into your town. You probably already noticed a wind change and the low clouds coming your way. New Salem, 11 minutes. Batten down the lawn furniture hatches. Make sure your garage is shut. Do not leave your garage door open. West winds and an open garage can rip the roof right off at 80 miles per hour. Close the garage door. Please get your car in there too, just in case a tree wants to fall down on it. Sweetbriar Dam area, 23 minutes. It'll be near you. And as we look into the southern part, if you're in the southern part of Morton County, I'll time it out there too. This leading edge of storms looks pretty windy as well, as Pedro takes a jaunt. He's got to go for a walk. Okay, here we go. Storms moving east, 58 miles per hour, south of the interstate here. St. Anthony, in about 30 minutes or so, it'll be in your general direction. It's moving pretty quickly. So that's a look at that area of storms. Let's go just a little bit farther south here, pardon me, while I unclick some. This looks like another little swirly queue out here right over Lemon, another cluster of convective storms. So this one has its own rotation with it too. You can just witness it right there. This one has a backward C shape. This one has some very stout and strong winds with it. This is the number 2 biggest wind maker that I see out here. Weather Service says 60 mile per hour winds and quarter-sized hail potential with this cell. Its movement, as I look at it from the National Weather Service office in Rapid City, is at 45 miles per hour. So here's how long it'll take to get to you folks on that Sioux County line with South Dakota. It's mainly going to move over the rural parts of the county, but let's go 49 miles per hour. And it's going to be near Keldron in 4 minutes, Watauga in 20 minutes. Those are the areas in the path of that part of the storm. So a lot of rural thunderstorms moving through northern parts of South Dakota, heading towards Mobridge, heading towards Pierre area. You got Big Lake Oahe here. That one's going to be taking on some windy thunderstorms. I do believe these southern storms will have the best chance at some hail potential now into the very late night hours. Gene, hey, saying hi to Pedro. Teddy says hi. Hi, Teddy. Pedro says howdy. He had to go for a stroll. Oh, no, he's right here laying by me. I think he's got sick of listening to the weather. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to go and take a little bit of a recess here and let you know that storms are going to be late nighters. We will have a round of developing storms here. I'm not expecting severe storms from this, but it is along a warm front. So I'll keep my eyes on those. I don't expect them to be severe. The main event is heading into the Bismarck area by around that, let's say 9:30. They might arrive a little early as they accelerate now. And we'll keep you posted right here. You're watching Hutch's Weather. Thanks for passing the word that I'm here covering the weather for you. And I'll keep my eyes on these storms. But for us in the Red River Valley, the main event does not arrive until we get to the wee hours of the morning. James River Valley, Devil's Lake Basin have a better chance at seeing windy storms, as do our folks and neighbors along the South Dakota border. Stay tuned to me here on Hutch's Weather. I'll keep you updated and let you know what's going on. But a long line of nasty, windy storms that is capable of over 80 mile per hour wind gusts. Spotty tornado can't be ruled out along those rotating thunderstorms as they continue to work their way through the I-94 corridor, and points south will have the greatest risk of seeing the severe weather tonight. I'll be back with more in just a bit.